Welcome to the Torah Sweets podcast. This is Mendel Berlin, TorahSweets@gmail.com. This is episode number 17. Thank you so much for joining us. This week's podcast is sponsored by the Gelfand kids. Thank you, kids, for sponsoring the podcast. Wonderful children I met at a Shabbaton last week, and they're sponsoring in the merit of Mashiach. And with kids like you, with amazing, amazing family that you have, the Gelfand family, I'm sure Mashiach is well on his way. So, the rabbi was asked what to feed a person suffering from the coronavirus. And the rabbi replied, matzah, of course. So, well, does it help, Rabbi? No, came the answer, but it certainly slides easily under the door. Coronavirus is in the air, literally and figuratively. Everybody's talking about it. This is the central point of conversation. Everything's being shut down. Stores are being flooded. People are trying to shop for the apocalypse, so it seems. And there's different schools of thought about what exactly to make of this virus. There are some people who say, there's nothing but a big joke. It's not a big deal. It's really the media that's blowing it out of proportion. They want to get President Trump, and during the election year, they want to show how incapable and how incapable he really is, right? That's really the best word to describe it. And then there are other people who say, no, it's a serious, viable threat, and it's something that we really have to take very, very seriously. And not only that, they feel like it's doomsday, it's over, the world is coming to an end. What is the perspective that we're supposed to take right now? And I think this week's Parsha can help us understand a little bit more about this perspective. This week's Parsha, Parsha Kisisa, talks about the fact that you're not allowed to count Jews. We're not allowed to count a Jewish person. And the question is why? What's the big deal? Why is it a big deal to count altogether? Because King David actually made this mistake, one of the few mistakes he made in his life, and the result was a big plague where a lot of people died. So it's a very serious thing, counting Jews. The question is why? And there are three opinions that are offered. Number one, Rashi says it brings the evil eye. When you count things, like you count money and you count something, you bring an evil eye onto it, which takes away the blessing and the protection from it. The Rabbeinu Bachaya, on the other hand, says that counting makes a person more vulnerable because they become individualized as opposed to being a communal group, being together. And the person does not have enough individual merits to survive. And the Seforno says that basically this reminds us of the process of change. That what ends up happening is when somebody in a plague dies and other people don't die, people start to question, why is it that I'm alive? By what right do I have to be alive and other people not? And that creates a very dangerous situation. What we see today from what's going on in the world, we start to think about three lessons that this coronavirus has brought us literally to our doorstep. Number one is, why is it that altogether people count? Why is there such a thing as a census? So there's usually three reasons. Listening to President Trump last night in his State of the Union, the State of the Emergency, whatever it was called, he was talking about military prowess, how this America is going to rise to the occasion, and we have all the best this and the best that and the best doctors and the best military and the best way to fight it, and we have money. And the truth is, what has this virus shown? The little bacteria that has shut down nearly most of the world. That there's no such thing as military, there's no such thing as I got power, I got control. We're powerless, even against a small little virus, a small bacteria. Number two, the second lesson is that a lot of people are going into self-quarantine, or they had to stop traveling because of the travel ban, and it's time to actually stop, think, and reflect. Who's running the world? Who's in charge here? It's Hashem. Hashem is the one who's running the world. It's everything that He makes. His decisions are perfect, and whatever happens is in His hands. It's not in the hands of anyone else except Him, or any other thing in the world except Hashem. And number three, the most important takeaway is, and I found this cute little line, Corona is Korana. I mean, people coming out with different, trying interpretations. Korana means cry out, please. Cry out to Hashem. Ultimately, this is us talking to Hashem. This is the purpose of everything. You can't go wrong with this kind of a device. Us coming out and talking to Hashem and asking Hashem, please save us, please protect us, please make sure that we are, that we are in a proper state of mind and healthy. And that's really the message that we should be taking from this virus. Panicking doesn't do anything. It doesn't help, it just creates anxiety and creates more issues. So these are just some thoughts to think about, some encouragement, some inspiration. I'd like to hear feedback, especially in this topic, hot topic that we're discussing today. Please send us feedback at torahsweets@gmail.com or private message me. And wishing everybody a beautiful, wonderful, restful, peaceful Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom.